Okay, beloved brothers and sisters, attention prayer. Surely I am being turned to thee, O Allah, being upright to he who originated the heavens and the earth. I am not of the polytheists. Surely my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are all for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. No associate as he. This am I commanded. I am of those who submit. O Allah, thou art the king, and there is no God but thee. Thou art my Lord, I am thy servant. I've been greatly unjust to myself, and I confess my faults. So grant me protection against my faults, Allah, for none grants protection against faults except thee. And turn away from me the evil and indecent morals, for none turns from me the evil and indecent morals but thee. But guide me to the best of morals, for none guides to the best of morals but thee. O Allah, we ask for your blessings on our word clearing sessions today. In the name of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the name of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Amen. Okay. All right, assalamu alaikum, family. And
Alaikum salam, sir.
glad to have everybody on. Today we see a few people coming on now. Sister Ani. We got Sister Tina, Brother Wadu, Sister Belinda. All right, we were on we're trying to get through this Scientology meaning. And I think one of the things that we left off on, we'll go back to meaning number 7. It says, it is the science of knowing how to know. So in other words, it's the science of knowing how to know. So seems like that would be a pretty good science to study, so how do you know? And and it makes me think about the question, one of the first questions that Sister Denise had posed, over a year ago. She said, how do I know that I know? Well, Mr. Hubbard, one of the things that he says, and that he really uses a lot, the concepts that he uses a lot. He says that, when he is trying to formulate or develop theories or what have you, that he always looks at the workability of that particular thing. Does it work? Does it move the meter? And so this is one of the things that Scientology does. It gives us a very practical point of view, perspective of a particular thing. Knowing how to know. And knowing how to know, see, when you know something, there is something in my mind that comes up. If I know something, I feel a certain degree of solidity, solidness, if you will. I feel solid about that. Do you have a good solid, how strong is your foundation? Or some people might say, how solid is your foundation? And then we get back to the word families. Now we start talking about solid, and we talked about the Christ being one that was crystallized into oneness with God, and a Christian being one crystallized into oneness with God through the example of Christ. And so there is something about the aspect of the solidness of a crystal. So if you're being crystallized into oneness, that means obviously, you are being compacted, or your belief, your knowledge, it's solid knowledge, you see. And so we said, so knowing how to know. He said it is the science of knowing sciences. And then talked about the other day about Islam. You could put that on Islam too. You could put Islam on all of this just about. It seeks to embrace the sciences and humanities as a clarification of knowledge itself. And this is what we said, that looking at Scientology is sort of like a spiritual and mental microscope, where you can look at a particular thing. When you look at that particular thing under a microscope, then you are able to see it with more clarity. It says, into all of these things, biology, physics, psychology, and life itself. The skills of Scientology can bring order and simplification. And we know that it is much easier to handle just about anything if it's in order, or if it's simplified. And we are taught, even when we study about the properties of static, is that the static is the most simple thing that can be conceived of. It's the most simple thing. And it's very interesting to start talking about, and even to a degree thinking about the static, because it seems to be sort of an elusive thing that when we try to encapsulate the reality in a thought, that the static is actually beyond, it extends beyond the realm of matter, energy, space, and time, where we normally perceive and conceptualize within these parameters of matter, energy, space, and time. Okay, so it says to bring order and simplification. And we know, we've studied the value of order. All right. Number 8, the study of the human spirit in its relationship to the to the physical universe and its living form. Okay, so that is, to me, that has been one very interesting aspect of Scientology, the study of the spirit and its relationship to the physical universe. And one of the things that we find in the relationship between the human spirit, or the thetan, or the soul, and the physical universe, is that the spirit, or the human spirit, can actually produce physical universe. We say theta is thought, on one gradient of theta is thought. And the thought is the first product of the spirit that impinges on the physical universe and actually can expand and create in the universe. The universe is sort of like a canvas for the thetan, or the soul, to impinge itself on, or to apply itself to. So that's the relationship. The relationship is effect, the cause and the effect, where the spirit is cause and the actual universe is effect. And this is the one of the things that allows us to delineate and to sort of shoot down to a degree the theory that people have. A lot of people will say that. They say that thoughts are things. And as a matter of fact, we've actually had a couple of people to fall out of this group on that one particular thing where they said that thoughts are things. Well, thoughts produce things, and because when you look at the cause and the effect, and the perspective that we come from, the perspective that we are trying to establish within ourselves is the perspective of God, which is the perspective of cause, because God is the ultimate form of cause of everything. So thoughts produce things, and then I can even see, though, and it's so interesting when you begin to rehearse these definitions, and it's definitely a rehearsal for me, is that you begin to see other things. You begin to see the aspects, certain gradient aspects, because you can say that that theta, the thought, could be the first gradient from static to universe. You have static, which is totally zero. Then you have thought. Thought is an interaction between static and universe. See, and then that particular thought impinges on the universe, and it takes form, it takes organization, a level of organization, and manifests itself or becomes rendered into matter, energy, space, and time. Mr. Hubbard says that the static, when you say static, you mean spirit in the purest form, the zero, the absolute starting point of everything. Man, that left me as quick as it came. I'm sure it'll come back, though. When you start from zero, you are at the point of cause. See, once you are off zero, something caused you to be off zero. See? Or your measurement. See, once you get to the point where it can be measured, then you are really off. You are at a different, you've moved to a different grade. Something has already started. See, and so, oh yeah, he said that theta is a matter, energy, space, and time production unit. And like I say, don't worry. This is a kind of a difficult part for a lot of people to really understand. And I'm growing in my understanding of it. But I feel like, and matter of fact, see, I know based on what I've learned heretofore, that I am, even if there is something erroneous, that it is still a step toward the right answer. So in our effort, Allah rewards us in our effort to get closer to him. You know, he's got it rigged up to where you will be rewarded. The only thing you got to do is hang in there. Only thing you got to do is keep going. Only thing you got to do is endure, as we were talking about this morning, about the enduring to the end. So we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it back to Allah. When Allah commands his creation to get in line with him, what choice do you have? You don't have no choice. Really. It's just that those of us who are willing, those of us who submit, then we're gonna get there a little bit faster because we're not swimming against the current. We're swimming with the current, you see? So he says the relation, so this is the study of the human spirit in relationship to the physical universe, where you produce the physical universe. Because every time you think, you are putting stuff out there too. And that's why one reason why the Quran talks about we, and we did this and we did that. Those of us who are in harmony with Allah. And all of us are, to a certain degree, in harmony with Allah. And Allah desires today that we all get in harmony. And that's one reason why the scripture says that all knees shall bow, all eyes will see, all tongues will confess, that we will realign ourselves with Allah. And the magnitude of Allah's, his majesty, his kingdom will be all the more greater, because those of us who recognize Allah will become a closer part of his reality. So basically the relationship between the spirit and the physical universe is that the spirit is cause, and that the universe is the effect of thought coming from the cause, coming from the spirit. So we create physical universe, we create energy, we create matter, we create space, and we even create time. See? So don't worry if you don't see how that can be done. Don't worry about that. This is just some coins that we putting in the bank that Allah, I believe, according to what I have studied, that these things will be redeemed at a later time. Jesus said that there are certain things that he can't tell us. Not that he couldn't tell us, hell, he could tell us. But there are a gradient sometimes that may be beyond usefulness. It might not be useful to us now, like we were talking about today, about the gradient of tuning up to people. It ain't gonna be, that's not useful to us now. Because if we get to tuning up on people now, you know, it might be more stuff, you know, more people getting into fights and everything than up to this particular point. All right. We good on that. No questions on that. the physical universe and its living form. And so let me just say one or two other things about that. Because, you know, when it say it's living forms, and I think about uh, uh, how they used to tell us that if you growing a garden or something, vegetables or plants, to talk to the plants. See, so when you when you talk to the plant, you are conveying a thought to the plant, and the thought is really something beyond words. The actual thought is just relatively encapsulated by words. So you have the words, then you have that which is beyond the words, which actually contain the intention or the intensity of the thought. So you can talk to your plants and see how the spirit can have an effect on the plants. Where you have what they call the horse whisperers. You see, and I remember brother the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking to his son Joshua, who has a gift of dealing with animals, and he said that brother Josh told him, he said that the thing about dealing with and taming animals is just your presence. See, you know, this is a spiritual thing, your presence, being there. See, beingness is a phenomenon of the spirit. Well, of course, you can be there physically too, but you being there, see, you are the essence, or you are the spirit. You don't contain a spirit, you are the spirit. Is that making sense, everybody? Okay. All right. So we go on here. Go ahead, brother Wadu.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Just maybe a contribution to the discussion as I'm listening and thinking about things from the science realm. I'm thinking of energies and frequencies, and as you said, in terms of beingness, that each of us, and as the minister has told us about, like an atmosphere, that each of us carries an aura or an atmosphere with us. So that certain things have to pass through that barrier of fire to come into our atmosphere, like the planets themselves, that these energies and frequencies are emitted, just as, and I'm just taking a guess, as I can see how thought can travel in the form of a frequency, which is another form of an energy as well. But I just wanted to offer that to the conversation.
Right. Well, the frequency is a property of the energy, which helps us to identify the gradient of energy. So you're right. It was something else that you said there too that made me think. Yeah. Well, right. So thought theta is thought, and thought has in the thought you have what you're talking about, Brother Wadu. See, and that's why we had in the course of thought, emotion, and effort. And mind you, the definitions that I'm giving you, they are all based on what Mr. Hubbard has actually said. I'm not just, pulling this from really from anything else. It's all based on what Mr. Hubbard said and based on what I know of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Miss Louis Farrakhan. And I remember the first time I said this, I was thinking that I was just saying it, and it might have been on my own volition that I was saying it, but I later discovered that the minister had said the same thing. And I can just, when I discover stuff like that, I only assume that I got it from the minister, which is probably a better assumption, because see, when you start thinking that you're doing stuff on your own, then you might be going down the wrong road. But he was saying a while back that he said that thoughts, one of the properties of a thought, and actually I can even see it even clearer now with what Mr. Hubbard is saying. He says that thoughts have a magnetic property. Yeah, it's a magnetic, because once you have a thought, this thought, we are in an atmosphere of poles and polarization, and at the core of the energy sources that we have known is electricity. And so in Mr. Hubbard, he said you have a chain here of thought, emotion, and effort. It begins with the thought. And the thought, the nature or the essence of the thought would create the emotion. The emotion comes from the thought. And then the emotion is an indicator and a regulator. It's an indicator of the quality of the thought. It's an indicator of the condition of the thinker. And it brings up emotion. And that's what emotion is. Emotion is the motion that the thought creates. As the thought impinges on the physical universe, the thought creates emotion. And the quality of the emotion determines where this thought or this emotion, or it determines where the emotion is, or the quality of the emotion, which is determined by the mathematical index of emotion, which we call the tone scale. And the inherent in the emotions is a regulatory aspect that regulates the effort that comes from the thought by the way of the emotion. Is that making sense?
It is for me.
I'm sorry, what's that now?
I say, yes, sir, it is for me.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so that's basically what you were saying. And I was just trying to give it back to you from the standpoint of the study. Because like I said, this is really, I'm telling you, this is from my study of Scientology and Dianetics. And sometimes I get a cognition that can be verified by the Scientology. But this is actually, I remember the minister talking about the magnetic properties. And so the intensity of the magnet and are actually the polarity. See which pole. So if you got magnetism, you know, the poles are, it's going to go one way, it's going to go negative, it's going to go positive. And so we're taught that if the emotion is above 2.0, it gets a positive polarity. If the negative, if the emotion is less than 2.0, it gets a negative polarity. So if you got a positive polarity, the higher up you get on the emotional scale, the more clarity that you have. The more clarity that that you have, that it facilitates. And the lower, the negative polarity, we talked about that this morning when we were talking about hate. And man, hate is a very, very interesting, it's a very interesting thing. Let me see if I can find this. Hate is like a ridge. Man, I can't find this for nothing. But anyway, hate is like a ridge. Hate, like, it blocks energy. Hate is like a prison. Because what is a prison cell if it's not a bunch of the prison walls and the ceilings? They are ridges. You see? Sister Haviva, go ahead, dear.
Are you saying ridge or reg? What are you?
Ridge, R-I-D-G-E.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Ridge, and a ridge is just some barrier that restricts the flow of energy. Hate is an energy. Hate is a ridge that restricts the flow of love from you, that restricts A-R-C. And how do you deal with that? And it is a negatively polarized energy, which can be canceled out by, Sister Tina, you may remember this, by the admiration. When we find something that we can admire, then what we do is we can reverse the polarity. Sister Ania, assalamu alaikum. Go ahead, sister.
Wa alaikum salam. Could you explain your thoughts on what you just said in relation to the fact that Allah, God himself, hates, has the I don't know if you'd say it's an emotion or but Allah, Minister Farrakhan has told us that Allah, God, hates. So would you relate that to the comment that you made about hate?
Well, he hates. He puts up a ridge between him and that which is not of him. That which is not in harmony with him. Hate, he hates what what are some of the things that he hates? He hates ingratitude. So he puts up a ridge between that. He almost like he puts up a barrier between him and that. So that I think that's what he, that's what he, when it says hate for Allah, because Allah, we're not going to say emotional. He is emotional, but he's not emotional from the same standpoint that we are emotional, because as the scripture said, his thoughts are from above and ours are from beneath. And he allows the negative emotions he's the master of this day of judgment. So if he said he hates something that he has put up, and see we're kind of beyond the traditional view of hate, because see, usually when we say we hate something, we want to just go and just destroy it. Well, Allah is the master. Allah, he's able to use that which seems to be negative, and turn it into a positive experience. So when he hates something, he's only basically what he said, he has put up a hedge between him and that which is not in a line with his character. See? Or he has polarized himself against this particular thing. Now that's what I see in relationship to, and I guess I'll just have to find this. I was trying to find the definition in my other word clearing document, so I wouldn't be going back and forth on my technical dictionary. Here, let's see. If you bear with me 1 second, let's see if we can find it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, matter of fact, it says here, hate in the technical dictionary is a total ridge. A total ridge. It says around 1.5 on the tone scale, where we saw this morning, we looked it up today, and hate is actually 1.4 on the tone scale. Around 1.5 on the tone scale, affinity has almost reversed itself. So he puts a hedge. So he's saying, no, I'm not tolerating this. You see? And it says that its dissonance has become hate, which can be violent and is so expressed here. We actually have a factor of in theta repelling theta. That's from Science of Survival. Does that help any, Sister Ania?
Yes, sir. It does. It helps greatly. And as you spoke of it, I also thought too that by Allah putting up a ridge between himself and that which he hates, and the ridge being a barrier, but a ridge and a barrier also directs the flow of something.
Mm-hmm.
Because Allah wastes nothing, he's able to channel that energy of his hatred to into another or just say to another
and to
area,
another useful area.
useful area. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's, and let me just say this. I'm not claiming that I'm no OT or nothing like that. But see, you thinking on the OT level. And I'll just say this too. When you asked me that and I started, I kind of knew the answer, but I felt Allah intervening in the answer. And that's why we say, whenever two or more gathered in my name, Allah is that right there with us. And when you, like I said, we need questions. We need penetrating, piercing questions and observation. And they will help, inshallah. It helps us all. You see? So thank you so much, Sister Ani. Brother Wadu, go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. My comment was, as you were speaking on how emotion regulates, I'm thinking from the biological perspective, we have a word that's called modulate. And something that modulates, it's like a protein or an enzyme, and it lets what the thing that it's modulating does what it is supposed to do, but it either turns it up or it turns it down based on certain factors and parameters that are present within the body. So it modulates its activity. If there needs to be more of it, then I guess it's the same as regulate, but it just made me think of that word modulate as well.
Yeah. And see, this is what you're saying right now is further validation to me of the correctness of Mr. Hubbard's perspective. Is that, see, he says, and you can bear witness, I'm sure, Brother Wadu, that the sciences, say the science of biology and the science of chemistry in this world are not very well codified. In other words, when you look at the perspectives, the perspective of chemistry and the perspective of biology are two distinct perspectives, where what Mr. Hubbard is saying, and even in the definition that we just was reading from on Scientology, his goal in developing Scientology was to give a single platform of study where you can see, you should be able to relate in a cross-discipline or interdisciplinary perspective. Say, like, if you look at the periodic chart of elements and chemistry, and you look, say, magnesium sulfate in chemistry, and then you look at magnesium sulfate in biology, there should be some codification to where you can look at these things from a cross-disciplinary or interdisciplinary perspective and see the oneness of the properties, just like what you're saying. And that's what it made me think of when you talk about modulation, because modulation, I'm a sound engineer, and the sound, and so you have that same word in sound engineering. Engineering is, you have modulation. And even in music, I have a certain array of effects that I can put, say, on a guitar signal that modulates it. And actually, if you see at Star Wars, Darth Vader, if you listen to his voice carefully, you will see there is some modulation of his voice that is taking place in music or in sound engineer. It's called flanging or phase shifting, where you shift the frequencies slightly above, slightly below. And when you get an opera singer that says, oh, all of that, oh, that's a modulation in the physical world. I hope I'm not getting too far on the deep end with this particular thing. But my point is that, see, this is part of the value of Scientology, see, is that if you understand these words, then if you understand the essence of the word, the zero-ness of the word, then you are able to relate these concepts from an interdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary perspective, thereby expanding your knowledge of medicine into music, into physics, and other disciplines. And don't worry, if you don't understand all of what we're saying right now, you're just putting money in the bank. You're going to get there. Just like what Sister Denise was saying this morning about the minister. He said, don't worry, if I ain't knocked on your door yet, you're going to get there. And I ain't talking about me, but I'm just talking about you and I. We are the gods of the universe. And so we're going to understand all of this stuff sooner or later. We just need to be patient. So thank you, Brother Wadu. Sister Anya, go ahead.
Additional perspective on the word modulation.
Okay.
Applying it's in the medicinal field, but it's a word that applies to various herbs. In the quality of the herb, and I'll just take for an example this particular formulation that my husband and I sell, which is called Hemohim. And that's one of the qualities that it has, is that it modulates, meaning that, as Brother Wadud was explaining, if according to it, it reacts in the body when you take it according to what your body needs. So the same formulation is not going to give the same results for each person that takes it. So when my husband first took it, what he needed was energy. And that's what the formulation did for him. It gave him lots and lots of energy. And another person, in fact, I'll mention her name, Sister Denise, when she took it, she found that the formulation caused her to sleep and relax and rest all the time. And so I explained to her that you thought that you needed energy, but it's what the herb is saying your body needed was rest. And so for many months that she took it, she would always get sleepy. And in fact, she found it better for her to take the formulation in the evening, mm-hmm. Whereas for myself, I found it better to take mine in the morning because it gave me energy. So that's another example of modulation there. And it makes me think of when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives a lecture, and all of the people sitting in the audience, he uses the same word, but the frequency of his word strikes each individual differently according to what it is that they need at the time. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is is the great modulator among us.
Right. Well, that's what it is that when you and like I say, when when you understand what modulation is, really from an engineering standpoint. See, if you are, and we are, Allah is the supreme engineer. See, so when you start talking about modulation, so I go back to music again. So when you have in certain songs, you have what they call a modulation. And when usually what a modulation would do, it will most typically a modulation is when you go from one key and then you will step that key up. That'll go to a half step, one semitone up. So just like, for example, I'm trying to give you a good example that you might know. You familiar with this song by the Commodores called Easy Like Sunday Morning? You know that song? Most people probably know that song.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
So he
sir.
he says, I'm easy like Sunday morning. Da, 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 da. I'm easy. Let me see. I don't know if you know what I mean, when he gets that and then he goes up into a higher key. So that's it goes up in frequency. And so sometimes a change in frequency is therapeutic, just like a change in environment is therapeutic. So when you modulate, then it stirs up some aspects that the stagnancy may be causing a problem. And so by modulating it, bring it up, or even you can modulate down too. You see, it causes a stir. And when something gets stirred up, then the level of awareness of that particular thing changes. So those are good examples. Both Brother Wadud and Sister Ania. Everybody good? Everybody good today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. All right. So it goes back to what I was saying, Brother Wadud, about he was saying the like you said, into all of these things. It's a clarification of knowledge itself. So when I talk about modulation from Darth Vader to Lionel Richie to the product that Sister Ania is selling, to what you were saying about it, it gives us, if we can understand those definitions, it gives us a clarification. So it says it seeks to embrace the sciences and humanities as a clarification of knowledge itself into all of these things. What? Biology, physics. You talking about biology, brother, and physics. That's what I'm talking about. It's physics, because you're talking about actual frequency, music in the music realm, cycles per second, psychology in life itself. And so when we understand these things, then it actually becomes simple, because when you are able to embrace the simplicity of these concepts, it is then when it becomes solid. Oh Lord, I hope I ain't speaking Japanese this evening because I don't know Japanese. All right. Number 9, and maybe we'll get through this one. Maybe we'll just start back with this one next Tuesday. It is a science of life. So we're talking about all this stuff, you know, and don't forget what we're talking about. We're talking about Scientology. But not only are we talking about Scientology, see, when you got your word families, you got your word families, you got Islam in there with Scientology. Or Scientology with Islam. And just going back to what he said, the study of the human spirit and its relationship to the physical universe and its living form. So the human spirit, which is the spirit of God, its effect. So what is the effect of God? He said, "Kum fayakun." And that's what we studying in STW. It's kum fayakun. We studying postulates. Postulates is be, and it is. Now, except Scientology, words are a little bit different. Well, it's not really different. It just adds another important aspect. So in Islam, we say be, and it is. And that's the relationship between the spirit and the universe. Be, and it is. Earlier today, obviously, you said, I'm going to be on this phone. I'm going to be on this call at 3 o'clock. Here you are. You said be, and it is. But now there's another step that had to take place. See, there's a step between be and it is. And that step is do. Because when you say be, well, then you got, in order for that thing to come into fruition, that's something that you have to do. And then the Holy Quran, it tells you that. It says, you know, by the time surely man is in loss, except those who believe and do good. And in Scientology, we say, he says, Mr. Hubbard says, be, do, and have. The have is the it is part. Be, do, and have. And so that's why we say in STW, you know, you say be, because be is a very you focus on what you be, on who you be. And then that affects the level or the quality of what you do. Because if you say, I am God, then what I do is going to be on the level of a God. And then I'm going to have whatever I want in the universe since I created it, since it's mine. Or like we say in the country, since it's mine. So anyway, That's it. That's it for today. We'll come back. We'll brush up on a little bit of this with entering to next week. But man, who would have thunk it? that we talk all of this we talking about Scientology.
Mhm.
And really we're really talking about Islam first. But what I'm trying to do is to demystify us and to remove that hedge, Sister Anya. See, some of us hate the word Scientology. Some of our people hate Scientology. We don't want to be associated in any form or fashion with Scientology. That's it. Thank you so much for your participation. I look forward to seeing you, inshallah, on Tuesday. And man, I don't know about you, but I am really getting a lot out of this word clearing session. So we will close it out now with prayer. I'd like to ask Brother Montgomery if he would close us out in prayer.
Yes, sir. Attention prayer. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, master of this day of requital. Thee alone do we serve, thee alone do we seek for help and aid. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those whom thou hast bestowed favors, not of those whom thy wrath has brought down, nor those who go astray. Ameen.
Ameen. Okay, beloved brothers and sisters, may Allah continue to bless you with the light of understanding. And you know where we are if you need us. Myself, Sister Belinda, Sister Jacqueline, we're here for you. And so Brother Montgomery and Brother Wadu, let's try to talk in the next day or two.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. May Allah bless you all. Love you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Love you too.